to Germany. God help Kaiserville. God help Kaiserville. God help Kaiserville. Uncle Sammy, he gets the infantry, he gets the cavalry, he gets artillery, and now, by gosh, we'll all go to Germany. God help Kaiserville. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums drumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Mormoro.
I'm Jeff Franzak, and we're from the 20th Century Marine Organization.
A historical organization that covers 100 years worth of Marine Corps history with a display for every war, major and minor, and interwar period between essentially 1900 and 1999. Today, out at Midway Village in Rockford, Illinois, we have brought part of our 1918 Marine Corps trench display that we've built. And one of the key parts of this display is that it is an above-ground cutaway designed to bring the trench out of the ground onto the eye level of the attending public, so they can see all the intricate details of how a trench was constructed, how a Marine or just soldier in general would have lived in one, and what amenities or comforts they had available to them at the time. So we'll I don't know, just started the firing line.
Basically, yeah, this is the firing line. This is where all the soldiers would step up to shoot over the wall or to hop over the wall. Sometimes they'd use a ladder to get up over the wall. Basically, straight on out above these, past these sandbags would be what was known as no man's land. 300, 400 yards across from our trench would be the German trenches. These trenches were very narrow. What you see here on this wall would obviously be duplicated on this side, but for the sake of the public, so they could see how the trench looked, we left this wall out, again a cutaway of the trench. These were very muddy. There was a lot of rats, there was a lot of lice, there was poison gas,
influenza,
pneumonia, not a lot of food, a lot of spoiled food, a lot of horse meat was eaten. It was very unpleasant. What you see here to your right is the officers' quarters, which would be considered a, I mean, this is as good as it got. You had bunks, maybe you had a little heater, you had a little better food, but for the most part it was pretty much living in wet conditions, very cold, out in the elements. You're out in the elements all day, all night, just waiting for that whistle to blow to go over the wall into no man's land.
Especially on cold days like today. I mean, you would grab anything and everything you could find in order to just simply keep yourself warm. If you had a trench coat, you wore your trench coat. If you found two trench coats, you'd try and wear both trench coats, or even throw a blanket over yourself. It didn't matter. Anything and everything that you could find to just improve your life in the trench was always desperately needed. Another key thing about these officers' quarters, if you'll follow over here, is that for the officers, they had to have a little bit better living conditions than the regular enlisted men would. The reason being is that they had to have easy access to maps, paperwork, communication lines, for their telegraph keys as well as their field phones, and usually were directly connected to communication trenches, which were just small 2 or 3 foot wide trenches in a zigzag pattern that ran from a forward combat trench all the way to the rear built up trenches where a lot of the higher up in command officers would be, and especially too where a lot of the artillery is located. Typically in here you'd see a couple of things that we've included, which are these bunk beds, which are actually rope suspension types. And Jeff, could you explain where the term sleep tight comes from?
The term sleep tight comes from this right here. This is pretty much no smaller than a submarine. We're talking about the bunks. The term sleep tight comes from this exactly here. Bunks were very narrow, very tight. They were usually just some rope strung across some pieces of wood. These more than likely would have been stacked 4 high instead of 2. Just for the sake of our convenience, we made them a little easier to get in and out of. But you probably would have had a guy sleeping on the bottom, a bunk right about here, a second bunk here, and a third bunk at the top. And most of the time they were the term hot bunks, where they were just rotating. Somebody was always sleeping in that bunk, kind of like on a submarine, where when somebody's working, somebody's sleeping in his bed until he gets off of his shift and goes back to sleep. Everybody was kind of rotating in and out of the bed. The beds were at a premium. Obviously there wasn't a lot of room. When these dugouts were built, they were usually existing pieces of trenches that were already dug, and they would just cover them up pretty haphazardly.
Usually taking some wood planking up the walls, and then up above they throw up this corrugated sheet metal. And its corrugated siding would be at ground level, and then on top they toss on some dirt, they toss on some extra sandbags, anything to give them any sort of protection from any possible artillery hits or grenades going off, just anything to keep them safe.
Does anybody have any questions? Mark. Come on. Anyone? Nothing? We did that good of a job explaining?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Smile, boys, that's the style. What's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So, pack up your troubles in your own